Hello, I'm Dave from Vintage Apparatus, and today we're going to be taking a look at the classic 1983 movie WarGames. This movie came out in 1983 during a time when most people were just getting used to the idea of a home computer. What I'll be focusing on is all the really nifty old gear and technology that's presented in this film. Hey, it's Leo. Good old Leo.
Replacement teams here, sir.
That safe on the desk, I think, is just your standard home security safe, like what you would see lying around, in somebody's office somewhere. Nice touch there. Oh, hey, look, that's a card key. Card key is pretty cool. They were the first company to develop an electronics access control system. Pretty neat.
Stand clear.
I love this sign. Anyone urinating in this area will be discharged. Very important. The funny thing is they're inside a missile silo control room. They'd have to come out of that door to pee in the hallway? I have a sneaky suspicion these control rooms had their own bathrooms, and somebody's locked in there for 12 hours straight. Oh, it's interesting. Leo here, that's not actually his character name, has lieutenant bars. I guess he's a lieutenant. Ha! We're going to pause this for just a second here. If you're listening carefully, when those locks were spun, they made a little beep, 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 beep sound. Those are mechanical tumbler locks. They don't make beepy noises when you turn them. Just for the record. And it would be kind of cool if they did. But these do not. Okay, this is actually a great setup. As far as I can tell, this display font and the green screen and everything else, I think is real. I think it's actually filmed off of a real computer screen. Experience tells me this is actually a televideo terminal, which kind of meshes because later in the movie they have televideo terminals. It's all in caps. By this time, most of the terminals actually can do upper lowercase, but it looks better when it's in caps. But yeah, this is real. Don't see anything out of it. I mean, the content could be anything you want. Who cares? That's not the important part of it. I'm interested in the technology and what's being displayed. So I'm going to guess this is filmed off of televideo terminal. That terminal that's in front of him, I cannot find it anywhere. I looked through sources for what would be deployed in the military during that time. Can't find it anywhere. It's a good time to point out that these types of movies, they tended to build their own equipment. So they would get their prop department out and they would start assembling stuff and putting things together and come up with kind of something that looks nerdy and has the correct feel, but isn't necessarily a real piece of equipment. Or I don't have access to military equipment, so I don't know. Maybe this thing is real. Later in the movie, they're carrying this thing out, and one of them has a big multi-pin connector on the side of it, and one of them does not. So I'm guessing this is one of those custom-built pieces of equipment. I can't identify it otherwise. All right, the big NORAD control room. I love this set. The set is so beautifully done, and it's really kind of the centerpiece for the whole movie. This whole set was custom built specifically for the movie. The displays that you see up there, for the time, this would not be possible. 1983, doing real-time graphics in color, in full vector like this, dynamically, in that high resolution, in that size, you can't do it. The systems just didn't exist. These graphics that you're seeing were generated on an HP 9845C desktop computer, which was, for the time, an extremely advanced machine. It's actually quite expensive, too. And they were filmed off of a 14-inch monitor. So what would happen is they would render the graphics in monochrome, film it, put a new filter over the camera and film it again with a different color. So they had full color displays, and obviously the frames would be modified for whatever color they had to be in. But that took the screens to film resolution. The entire sequence, everything that you see on the screens was storyboarded ahead of time, and they filmed them in sequence and then projected them up on the big displays. In the space, they're actually projected there. So if you were on set, that's what you would see, which is really cool. I would love to have been sitting there for that. Apparently, to get a full frame, and remember that movies run at 24 frames per second, it took about a minute to do one frame. So when you see all these displays that are up there for, I think there's 23 some odd minutes, I could check that to be sure, a video that's, do the math, it's a lot of time. It took a long, long time to render these screens, but they look beautiful. I love them so much. Okay, let's keep going. I think I'm done nerding about that. Okay, hey, our first retro computing. That is a Televideo 925 terminal. There's actually two of them right there. Those are great little terminals. Now, I'm going to pause this again right here. So on the computing floor here, we see a lot of different pieces of equipment. And it's kind of a mishmash, but it's kind of cool also. So what we're seeing here is kind of a mix of IBM mainframe equipment. That's what's kind of through the middle there. And everybody has to have 9-track tape drives, because 9-track tape drives look cool. They have little spinny discs on them. For high-speed access, they're not particularly good, because in order to use a 9-track drive to get data, you have to wind the tape to the point where you're trying to get the data off the tape. So you wouldn't have them in a real-time system like this. You would have disk drives. Now, in this case, they do have disk drives. They've got these large top-load discs in the foreground here. I cannot identify them. They kind of look like CDC equipment or IBM equipment, but those are top-load platter drives that you would drop a big stack of disks into the top of them, and they would spin up to speed and whatnot. Those things are hideously expensive at the time, and we're not talking high capacity. We're talking a couple hundred meg of storage in each one of those, but they are really cool. Oh, arcades. I really miss arcades. Like big arcades with all bloop, bloop, bloop. And we meet David Lightman, the hero of the story, a very young Matthew Broderick. He's playing Galaga, by the way. One of the best video games. There's Ms. Pac-Man, Scavenger Hunt. There's Tron in the background. Awesome. That's Zaxxon to his right. Oh, and another Tron machine. Why would I have two Tron machines? Galaga was a great game. So super duper fun. Who knew that Matthew Broderick later on would make running across a yard famous in Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Maybe you could tell us who first suggested the idea of reproduction without sex.
Your wife?
Oh, he sets him up so well there. Come on, what a straight line like that. This is actually a beautiful setup. So we find out here that our hero, Mr. Lightman here, is getting himself sent to the office. Oh, here's another Televideo terminal. You can tell the Televideo is because that kind of two-tone cover and the multicolor keyboards. But he's going there to find the password, which gets written on that little piece of paper every time. And I think that's great. This is like beginning social engineering. It's not really hacking per se, certainly in the time, but it's a wonderful twist that this is what he's doing. He's deliberately getting himself sent to the principal's office so he can find what the current password is. And at the time, it's not like everybody had terminals and everybody had computers they worked with. There was like 1 or 2 computer terminals per office or space or whatever. You'd go to wherever the terminal was or wherever the computer was. You could sit down and log in, and they wrote the password. This is why you don't ever write your passwords like on a Post-it note on your screen. It's terrible. And now we meet Lightman's computer. Okay, let's talk about this for just a minute here. This is important because this is a key bit. Okay, 1983 was the time when computers were starting to kind of explode, where students were getting them into their schools. They were getting cheap enough so that any school with a decent budget could get a bunch of 8-bit computers, Apples, TRS-80s, Commodores, things like that into their schools. But this is coming at the end of kind of the birth of the Silicon Revolution, when new computers were coming out towards the end of the mid and the end of the 70s and being picked up by businesses. And businesses could get their own computers, install them into their offices, and start doing word processing on them, doing billing systems, doing invoicing, doing all the stuff that used to be the realm of mainframes and mini computers. In the late 70s, the first 8-bit inexpensive computers were coming out, led by the Altair and various other machines. Those were all based on a Zilog Z80 chip, which is an 8-bit CPU. Extremely flexible, quite powerful and fast for the time, and cheap. The best known one of them, other than the Altair, which is the first kit computer, is this one. This is an IMSI 8080. The IMSI 8080 is iconic for a variety of reasons. One, it was in this movie, so everyone knows what they look like. It had these wonderful display lights on the front of it. And the display lights with a switch panel underneath it were kind of reminiscent and echoed PDP-11 front panels and other mini computer front panels. For instance, I have this machine right here. This is a Pi DP-11. It's a Raspberry Pi emulating a PDP-1170. But it has switches along the front of it, and it has the lights and everything like that. The 8080, the IMSI 8080, had something very, very similar. And those lights would be churning along, showing the stack pointer, memory status, bus status, all this other stuff. And you can look over it and see the computer working on something, which is really cool. You could, if it was stuck in a loop, it would just go on the same pattern over and over again. Mr. Lightman here has one of these. The timing is funny because this is 1983-ish, 82, 83. At this time, these machines are actually getting kind of old. The business computers are getting more powerful, they're getting faster, they're getting more expensive, certainly getting more capable. When researching this, found that the people who were putting the movie together were very careful to say everything that he has in his room here is stuff that you would scrounge from a dumpster. Now, something you'd find behind an old computer center or behind somebody's business. At this time, this machine was actually kind of getting long in the tooth a bit. Around this time, most home computers were switching to 5¼ inch floppies. We can see here that David is using 8-inch floppies, which were the first kind of home mass storage device. I think there were 180K. But these machines didn't have hard drives or any other storage, so when you booted them up, you booted them off of 8-inch floppies. He has an IMSI 8080 here with a pair of 8-inch floppy drives, which are great. It's a wonderful setup. His terminal is kind of weird. The terminal is not standard. Most computer setups like this would just use a normal serial terminal, like the televideos we saw before, or some of the other stuff that I've posted on my channel. A basic RS-232 based serial terminal that you would talk with the serial port on the machine. These machines all ran CP/M. So what he has here kind of looks like a piece of lab equipment or a video editing system or some type of videotape system. Usually these don't actually have the screen resolution that you would need for a terminal, but it looks good in the movie, so I guess we'll just stick with it. It's black and white, which is correct, because color monitors were hideously expensive at the time, so that makes total sense. Okay, let's keep going.
What are you doing?
Dialing into the school's computer.
This is accurate. So what he's using here, I'll pause here. Lightman has used what's called an acoustic coupler. An acoustic coupler is just a little device that has a speaker and a microphone on it, and you take a telephone, like a real telephone, and you put it into the cradle, and the speakers on it talk through the handset in a set of tones. The little box that he has up here, it's kind of weird because he's got both an acoustic coupler and he has a modem. Why you would have both, I'm not actually sure, because most acoustic couplers are modems. So why does he have both? It doesn't make any sense. We have up top here an MSI 212A modem, which on its face looks pretty good. It doesn't exist. There's nothing called that. That's a nice modem. If I were around at this time, I'd be happy to have a modem like that. And certainly what's coming up on his screen here is moving pretty quickly. I love on his screen here it says PDP 11270. There's no such machine as a PDP 11270, but I'm really happy that they used a PDP. Haha. Welcome to the Seattle Public School Data Net. All right, TTY 34 of, I wonder if that's terminal 34 of 984. That's a lot of terminals. Holy cow. Interesting point here. If you were dialing in on a serial connection like this, you would probably go to a terminal server. And a terminal server is a device that has a bunch of modems on or a bunch of serial ports on it, and you would connect to one of the terminal ports and it would auto connect you to the mainframe or whatever machine you happen to be going to. So, interesting way of looking at it. Second thing here is nobody, I hope worth their salt, would have an open dial-in like this with a one-word password, text password. You're not identifying yourself, you're just giving a name. Yes, it might have existed at the time, but that's highly unlikely. As somebody who may have done a little bit of fishing around at the time and finding interesting machines to connect to, very rarely would it. Even the mini computers I used in college in 1982 and whatnot, username and a password. You had to have both, not just a single text password. All right, let's keep going. Also, you never echo back your password to the screen. Notice he's typing in lowercase also. And jumps right to the student name lookup. Great. It's important to note, by the way, that everything that he's doing here does not require a computer. It just requires a terminal. And a terminal with a modem. A lot of early access online systems, you didn't, if you wanted to dial in from home, you would just get a terminal with a modem and you'd plug it into your phone line or use an acoustic coupler. Again, acoustic couplers are really out of date at this time, but they did exist. All right.
What are you doing? I'm changing your biology grade.
No, I don't want you to do that. You're going to get me in trouble.
It's just like a big text editor here. I love how that's being presented.
There, you just gotta see.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Ooh, naughty, naughty. Because nobody's going to notice that your grade changed like that, right? Sure, no problem. So, talk for a moment about speed. Most acoustic couplers at the time were about 110 baud or 300 baud. That's the fastest you could go through basically a pair of speakers that were talking to each other, you know, connected up like this. Any higher than that, you'd start to get aberrations, you get line noise. Now, what you're seeing on the screen is a little faster than 300 baud. I'd say it's about 600 baud. The modem that they present on top of his machine is probably a 1200 baud or a 2400 baud modem. 1200 baud would be about right for this. And you can kick along pretty good. I absolutely remember going from 300 baud to 1200. It was like night and day. Like, oh gosh, I can fill a screen with text. It's wonderful. So, kind of cool. So, Lightman is reading a magazine here. And magazines were huge in the early 80s, mid 80s. There was no internet. There was very little TV. So you got magazines that had product announcements and exciting stuff going on. This one's pretty dramatic, which is kind of cool, from Protovision. And of course he's interested. Gives an address. Fantastic. Now, here's the interesting thing. There. So what he's carrying there is a copy of Creative Computing Magazine, a wonderful magazine that was out through the late 70s, and I'm actually not sure when they stopped publishing. It was run by David All. The magazine is the September 1982 copy of Creative Computing. A fellow named Michael Walden figured it out. There was a couple key things. They found the article, they found the page, they found everything. It was really neat. Notice on the back of the magazine, there's this big elephant. The elephant was a manufacturer of floppy disks. And certainly when I was in high school, you would go out and buy another disk if you needed some more stuff for whatever you were copying, or did I say copying? Whatever you were storing, you needed a couple more disks. You'd go to the computer store in the mall and you'd buy another floppy for a buck or two or three or whatever it is. If you had a box of 10, then you were definitely big. But that elephant was an elephant never forgets. So that was their little tagline, and those were great discs. And I had a lot of them. So he's calling information with a real live human being to get information. You couldn't look it up otherwise unless you had printed books. There was, again, no internet, no dial-up. I mean, there were dial-up systems, but they were very, very cumbersome. So basically, he just went to information and asked for phone numbers in the area. This is a great setup. I love this. Back on the coupler.
I have you now.
Not sure why he set up the coupler like that. Ah, okay. He's setting up a war dialer. This is absolutely legit. 100%. Okay. I'm going to pause this for a second because this is really, really cool. Yeah, big smile on that one. Okay. During the time when this movie was made, the only way to get a remote connection to a computer was over a dial-up line like this. Fine, that's great. Modems were getting more common. People could use a modem to dial into something. And various backbone networks were coming together that allowed you to connect from one machine to another without necessarily making a long-distance phone call. MCI, Sprint, some other companies were setting up these packet data networks that you could dial into one point and then connect remotely over to something else. However, if you're trying to find available numbers in a certain area, you would do what's called war dialing. Now, I think the term was coined directly from this movie, which is wonderful. The idea is you set up a program just like this one that would sequentially dial phone numbers and listen for a carrier tone. That means a computer picked it up that has a carrier. Then it would log that information. Then you could come back later and see which ones it found. The way it's presented here, dead on. Absolutely 100% accurate. You would set a program, it would pick up, it would dial the area code in sequence like this. If it didn't get a person, it would hang up and try the next number. Now, having said all that, there are some problems with how it's presented here. First of all, an acoustic coupler cannot dial a phone. That's it. You can't do it. Because in order to dial a phone, the first thing you need to do is pick up the connection. You have to take the line off the cradle, which makes a connection to the local switch, and you get a dial tone. Once you have a dial tone, you can use DTMF tones or whatever to make a phone call. But when the call is over, you have to disconnect the loop. It's an analog signal. It's a switch. Click. You have to turn it off. To make your next phone call, you have to click, take it off the hook again, make a connection to the switch, and call again. An acoustic coupler can't do that. A modem can do that, but he has a coupler here. If you talk to most of the computer nerds in the world, they're like, you can't make calls with an acoustic coupler. Sure, there's ways around it. You could build a small device that disconnects and reconnects the line. It's really, it would just be a switch. But there's no need to if you have a modem, because that's what modems do. They dial phones. Okay. Having said all that, it's still really cool, and absolutely at the time we were all nerding out, like, he's doing a sequential dial to try to find phone numbers. Hooray! So very cool on that. And here's the war dialer finishing up what it was doing. Again, the presentation here is computers are mysterious. They're alien. Most folks don't even touch them. Okay, Lightman picks up the coupler and says, "Here, this is what it sounds like." The tone that comes out of the phone is not a carrier tone. It's made up movie magic. And anybody from that generation will immediately tell you what it sounds like, because it has a very, very well-known sound to it. Second problem is, when you pick up an acoustic coupler like that, it introduces noise or disconnects the call. Acoustic couplers were very, very sensitive to noise and interruptions. So if you picked it up right in the middle of a connection, it would usually drop. You'd get noise on your screen, it would just drop. Those of us in a household where you had a shared phone line, you could always tell when somebody upstairs picked up the line, because your connection would drop. Right? You get noise, and then you'd hear your mom yelling down the stairs, "David, get off the phone! I need it!" Or you get "I've been trying to call the house and it's been busy the whole time." Interestingly enough, one of the biggest enemies of dial-up lines like this was call waiting, because if you were connected to a machine over a dial-up line, if somebody tried to call you and you had call waiting, if anybody who remembers what this sounds like, it would interrupt your conversation and would go boop boop or something like that. On a modem connection, that would probably disconnect your line, or you get a ton of garbage. So it was common to go, "Uh-oh, I bet you somebody just tried to call me," or you disable call waiting when you're making calls.
Is that expensive?
There's ways around that.
There certainly are. There are ways around that. Yes, there are. So without going into this too in depth, and maybe I will in a different video, yes, making long distance calls was the #1 challenge for making data connection calls back in the time, because, well, all right, let's start with the fact that you had long distance charges. So when you made a phone call, if it was outside of your area code, even sometimes outside of your exchange, you would get a fee associated with it, or it cost money. Only local calls were free. That's not the case anymore, obviously. And you were charged by the minute. So if you got online and you called the next state over, even if it was only 15 miles away, you could be charged, 50 cents a minute just for connecting. And if you're online and you're chatting with your friends, or you're looking up stuff, or you're downloading something, you could be on for hours. Ask me how I know how this goes over with your parents. So hackers quickly figured out there's a couple ways around this. The first was, as I mentioned before, the packet switch networks. So you could get into these backbone networks. Once you accessed a local node, you could make a telenet was another one. You can make a connection over their network to some other service. Now, this only worked for services that were subscribed to those networks, which were very few. People would actually share lists of target nodes, because the connection over the telenet nodes were usually just a number, like a 6-digit number or something like that. So you go connect to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you were on some bank's server somewhere. So if you had a local telenet or MCI node or something like that, you could just dial to that, and then you can make the long distance connection to some other machine. The second way of doing this is you could fool the telephone network to say you're using an account that has permission to make long distance phone calls, and it gets billed to another account. You would do this by using an account number. You dial a local node, you would give an account number, and then basically say, "Please connect me to this thing." And it was all digital, and you do it through DTMF tones. So you connect to such and such a node, you get a tone, you go boop, 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 boop on your phone, and it would go bing, bing, honestly, I don't remember what the tones were. And then you could give a phone number, and it would make a long distance call for you. These were not protected. They were only security through obscurity, which means that if you had the number, if you had the billing number, you could use it as much as you like. The hacker community kind of kept lists of these phone numbers, these account numbers that you could use through Sprint or any of these other guys that would let you make long distance phone calls. Obviously, these accounts would frequently get closed, because suddenly some poor sales slob in the field would get a call from his manager saying, "Why are you making all these phone calls?" And I'm like, somebody hacked my phone number. And that's legit. We did hack your phone number. We stole your phone number and we're using it for something else. Not that I ever did this, for the record. Ah, not if you're under 18. Yes, of course, because nobody under 18 can get in trouble. Interesting little tidbit here.
Well, what did I get?
See the lights behind her on the IMSI? They're blinking now, but in an earlier scene, they were not blinking at all. So when an IMSI is idle, it doesn't, the lights don't change. It's just halted, basically. I found out later that, and in that scene just then with Ali Sheedy, the lights were blinking very quickly off and on in one sequence. Not like this thing's doing right now. And they're, again, just in that background, the lights are not blinking at all. Rumor has it that the IMSI 8080 that you see in the scenes here actually never worked. They couldn't get it working correctly. It was a prop, and sometimes it would just sit there and idle. Off screen, this machine was connected. The terminal was actually connected to another machine that was generating all the imagery. It's kind of an interesting little tidbit there. So now they're going through and looking at all the numbers that they picked up and dialing in to find out what these different systems are, which is kind of cool.
No parents.
And yes, we did this. That's about 300 baud that was just doing for the log on.
Connection terminated. How rude.
How rude.
For help.
Can you do that?
Yeah, on some systems. So the more complicated they are, the more they have to help you out.
What a great line. The more complicated a system, the more they have to help you out. Boy, ain't that the truth.
Games refers to models.
Again, this is about 300 baud.
That must be them.
Strategic application.
Again, notice the lights on the IMSI are not blinking at all.
Really, I want to get a print out of this.
Okay.
List games.
This drives me crazy. So he sets up the printer to start printing out all the what's coming over the screen, which is fine. The printer is obviously a dot matrix printer. Okay, great. Dot matrix printers are cheap. You can get them just about anywhere. But the sound effect being used is a daisy wheel printer, which was primarily used in offices for formal lettering and whatnot. So that didn't match. So that's kind of a bit of a tweak.
Yeah, they probably invented it in the first place.
When I first saw this set, I thought it was RIT. RIT. But it isn't. Okay, let's talk about this computer room for a second. Again, we are doing our standard movie tropes of the biggest thing that everyone ever sees in a computer room are 9-track tape drives. Even in 1982 and 1983, these were not particularly common. They are kind of tropes of the 70s, but they look cool. These particular ones are CDC drives. They're wonderful to work with and they're fun and everything, but I don't know why you'd have a whole bank of them in some technology lab at a college, which is what this is. In the foreground, again, we've got a couple disk drives, very similar. This terminal that's in the middle, though, is really interesting. The white terminal that's half black, again, couldn't find that anywhere, did a bunch of image searches and whatnot. The best that we can come up with is it's a microfiche reader or something that the prop department built. It actually, looking at it now, it could be part of it. Sometimes you get terminals that had their own acoustic couplers on the back of them and like a little printing terminal. That top screen, I have no idea what it is. Behind it, though, is a very deep terminal with some equipment sitting on top of it. That looks like a Tektronix terminal. Those were used for high-end graphics with these really neat long persistence phosphor displays. Okay, more disk drives here. Bunch of modern terminals on the desk there. That's fine. Don't know what that thing. That looks like another reader. Okay, you gotta have to have an electronics lab with soldering iron and a typewriter right in the middle of it. I love this scene because they're kind of getting nerds right out of central casting. You know, you kind of got the overweight, nervous guy, and you got the guy with absolutely no social clue, being super nerdy, and
I want a gym to see that.
you know, walked right out of Revenge of the Nerds or whatever you want to talk about. It's interesting. Modern society actually understands these folks a lot better now. So the printer next to her is a line printer or a band printer. These big printers were used in colleges and other, certainly in colleges, but certainly in data centers. They could print extremely fast. Some of the band printers could print an entire line of text at once, just very, very fast. Line printers, band printers had a big band that ran around them. That's one of those. They're very, very fast.
And you're talking about our back door?
Potato Head. Mr. Potato Head, back doors are not secrets.
Yeah, but Jimmy, you're giving away all our best.
Backdoors are not secrets, but backdoors are great. It's people build stuff into their systems called backdoors, which is a way to get into a machine that goes around the security system.
Oh, yeah, Melvin? How would you do it? The first game on the list. Go right through Falcon's Maze.
This is great. So he's been given this task to find out the author of this system or the builder of the system. And where does he go first? The library. Because that's where you did research. And all the library stuff is on paper or on microfiche. And it takes a lot of legwork. And I loved this when I first saw it, because this is how you would do this. You would just do the legwork, looking through archives, looking through magazines, looking through articles, talking with friends, talking with other connections. Here he's using a microfiche reader to look at things that have been scanned onto film. This is just analog film that's stored on these little spools of microfiche. I love the buzzer there. Hey, look, a card catalog. Oh my gosh, who remembers using card catalogs? These were the indexes of all the books that were in the library. And then you could go to a periodicals desk and request a publication or something, and they go find it in the archives. Oh, this is kind of cool. Okay, let's pause this for a second. So the woman here has gone on to a database called the Technical Database CompuFind Information System TARS Port DA. Who the heck knows what that all means? Red APL, FL Falcon, PhD. Okay, publications. So she's able to look up publications. Now, I did try to find a little bit more information on this terminal again. In this case, she's using a green screen NEC monitor. These monitors were very common. They're cheap, they're easy to build, you could get them anywhere. Those type of basic green screens were no problem at all. The keyboard is an unknown. It's a black laminate on a white base. The arrow keys are on the numeric keypad. It's got a normal return key and a shift key, but I couldn't find any source for that particular keyboard. It really could be anything. The layout is relatively common, but I could not find that specific one. And this is a daisy wheel printer, and it's making a daisy wheel sound, which is nice, on tractor feed paper. Great. Aw, deceased, 1973. He died in 1973. This system isn't that old. That's weird. Computers in 1973 could not do this, couldn't do any of this. You couldn't build a Whopper in 1973. So I really don't understand that. Again, using that screen to show a real-time video image off the VCR. A normal terminal wouldn't be able to do that. Why is the phone on the coupler again? This video is ancient. It's like out of, I don't know where they found this stuff. Like early 50s type stuff. If they say he died in 1973, the timing is a little weird. It's kind of a weird mix. This is great, actually. You know, he finds out that Falcon's son's name is Joshua. So after his family died, you know, in some weird way, he recreates his son in this computer to have a personality. So an open clear text word with a name, and you get all this stuff. Again, this is, you wouldn't get all this noise. Hello, Whopper.
We're in. It thinks I'm Falcon.
We're in. Thinks I'm Falcon. So let's start talking about natural language interfaces.
You want to hear it talk?
Yeah.
Note also that the M-size lights are not blinking again. This isn't doing anything.
Fine. How are you?
Excellent. 15 long time. Can you explain the removal of
Okay.
user
Real-time voice synthesis like this was really hard to do and would not have been something you would do because there's a lot more data that comes over a serial line than just plain text. I mean, if you had a plain text interface, then you could do what's going on here, but it's a bit movie gimmickry here. So possible. Oh, by the way, if they're using the modem, they have the modem in the background here. Those modem lights will be blinking on and off as data is going back and forth, and they're not. Oh, he misspelled mistake. People sometimes make mistake.
Later. Let's play Global Thermonuclear War.
Let's play Global Thermonuclear War. Again, we're back to 300 baud, actually, whatever this is. The graphics here are kind of funny. I'm not sure how you would draw those graphics on a standard terminal. They're kind of a mix between special characters and just ASCII text. You could do amazing stuff with ASCII text and render these cool images by using commas and slashes and apostrophes. I mean, you've seen this stuff around. That had more than that on it. Love these graphics.
I don't know. They're trajectory headings for multiple impact re-entry vehicles.
What's that mean?
No lights on the inside, no lights on the modem. This is all animated offline.
President on the horn. Yes.
I like the tone on the phone. Da, 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 da. Because that's what every phone sounds like when you talk to the president. Ooh, turning off a computer without powering it down. That's really, you don't want to do that. Ever. Even on modern machines, it's not a good idea.
We did manage to locate the general area where the transmission originated.
Where?
Seattle, Washington.
Shut it down.
So the implication here is that you could trace the phone line directly to the target machine as a direct phone line. Who the heck would leave an open phone line directly into a military computer that's controlling the ICBMs? Somebody would get fired really fast for that. So this monitor, it took me a while to find it. This is a 1977 Sony EconoQuick Trinitron monitor, or TV set actually. So it's a little color TV. The little Amtron label was obviously added by the production team because they probably didn't have the license from Sony to put the word Sony on it, which would be normally on the front of it. That took a while to find. That was really cool. I've never seen one of these. Destroy all the evidence. Definitely the first thing you do when you're being suspected of being hacked or being a hacker or think the FBI might break down your door anytime soon. Again, that's not how a modem works. When you get a remote call in, what happens is the calling computer waits for the phone to answer and start a tone, and then it syncs with it. It doesn't start by broadcasting a tone, and it doesn't sound anything like that. I found out, by the way, this monitor is an Electrohome 17-inch monochrome monitor. 17-inch monitor was pretty big for that day and age, so I'm really curious how the kid found one. And again, no computer in 1982, no matter how much genius behind creating it, could have this type of interactive chit chat and give and take. It's a no, and no, no. We have natural language models now where you can basically interact with a big data set in a conversational tone, but this is 50 years ago. You just didn't have this. Probably the biggest suspension of disbelief point in this entire movie, to be honest. Love this array of equipment again. Good stuff. Those are line printers again. Now, if you were in a super secure, say, center of Strategic Air Command, would you leave a known hacker kid alone in an office overlooking the command center with an open terminal right next to him? Oh, good. More text. Let's see what this one says. Of course, he logs directly into Joshua. All he had to do was tell McKittrick, type Joshua at the login prompt, and you're all set. And this woman is completely useless. Oh, look, our hacker is typing away on the keyboard, overlooking Strategic Air Command. I'm going to run and not do anything. And he clears the screen. Why would you do this? I love this bit, by the way, because if you build a mysterious big blinking box in the middle of your data center, make sure that you have one little LCD display on the side of it that shows the imminent destruction of the world. Very important. By the way, this little display was generated on an Apple II, which is kind of nice. So this is actually kind of a good hack. Lightman wants to make a phone call using a public payphone. Remember public payphones? Yeah, those things. So what he does is he unscrews the microphone on the handset, which gives you the open contacts, but he doesn't have anything metal. So he digs around and finds a little pull tab on the ground. And uses it to short out against the frame of the phone, the receiver. And it works. This isn't that far of a reach. So payphones use signaling tools to tell the switch whether you would put money into it or whatnot. You could kind of hack around it by making sounds over the handset. There's a very famous hacker, went by the name of Captain Crunch, who figured out that you could reprogram the phone switches by using a whistle that was found in boxes of Captain Crunch cereal. And that could reprogram the switch to give you free whatever. Free long distance calls. It's kind of cool. This is kind of a nod toward that. It's interesting. This is also a rotary dial phone, so it's very mechanical, quite primitive, which is probably why shorting out to a chassis might actually work. So the kids make it to Goose Island where Falcon lives, and there's this thing flying around. This is really cool, actually. It's a glider of a pterodactyl, and if you look carefully, it's steering itself by using its head, which folks figured out not too far around this time, that they used their head like a rudder, except they just point whichever direction they want to go in. I thought that was kind of a nice touch.
Confidence is high. Flight profile suggests
It's interesting to note here, by the way, he says, those planes, those are F-15s, not F-16s, which he just said, scramble 2 F-16s out of Galena. Different planes. Those are definitely F-15s. I may also really like fighter jets.
2-7, this is Brass Hat. They're right in front of you. You're almost on top of them.
Brass Hat, we got nothing on radar and 40 miles visibility. There's nothing out there, General, just blue skies.
General, you're listening to a machine.
Do the world a favor and don't act like one.
So we move along. It's a fake missile launch. Nobody dies. But the evil computer is not letting the operator turn things off. And we get this very dramatic stance here where Dr. Falcon sees that.
Sir, we got a problem. Walker's not letting me log back out.
And again, let's talk mathematics for a moment here. What's happening is the computer, Whopper, is trying to guess the launch codes. The number of digits doesn't matter because the way they're presenting it is it just keeps firing random digits until they lock in, which is an absurd way to do this because all they have to do is go from 0 to 9 and then from A to Z on each one, and one of them is going to work, and you're done. But for dramatic license, let's have it try to figure out the numbers in, I don't know, some weird algorithm way. But anyway, there we have it. Now, I'm not going to lie. I love this sequence. This whole idea, first of all, visually, it's wonderfully done.
Yes, number player 0.
And this whole bit, like, you can't win that game. I know that, but it doesn't. You're talking to a WarGames computer that was designed specifically to do this. To figure out what scenarios work and what works and what doesn't work. So, of course it doesn't. You know, if this were a blank slate, this would work. This would make a lot of sense. But it doesn't. But, you know, movie magic and movie plot, and it's actually not a bad idea, not a bad approach. Of course, the first thing that happens whenever a computer tries to work too hard is all the consoles blow up. Did you know that? Yeah, it's actually in the design specs. But isn't this what this machine was designed to do? To run all the scenarios over and over and over again. So why is it doing it now? And this is beautiful. I mean, come on. And everything's back and beautiful. Hooray! Because after you burn things out and whatnot, just turning the lights back on is easy. So that's WarGames. 1982, 1983, kind of playing on the fears of the time. I hope you enjoyed watching this. We have many other videos on the channel. This is our first retro computing movie review. If you'd like to see other movies looked at and kind of digging into to find all the little gems that you can see in the older films, please leave a comment and maybe we'll get to it. I'd love to hear your suggestions. Thanks very much.